In 2023, one of the world's leading game studies scholars, Espen Arseth, wrote a paper called Game or Supernovel, and I think Trails FC is very relevant to the conversation of this paper. Trails FC, like most JRPGs, is a story game, and that means you do a lot of reading. It's one of the things I love most about Trails. There are very few games that are quite like the Trails series in terms of the quantity and quality of NPC interactions. So this game is for you if you're also the kind of psychopath who loves talking to every single person multiple times between every story moment, just so you can get an update on the intimate details of their personal lives, or find out how the common people feel about the unfolding narrative. Of course, if you're not that kind of story-addicted lunatic, you can simply choose not to talk to anyone and plow through the game, but still, it's a slow burn, and I say that as a compliment, not an insult. As I've said in other videos, the slow burn of Trails FC is a feature, not a bug. By the way, for my wonderful supporters on Patreon, this video is for you. Thank you everyone for being so patient with me during this busy and stressful period of my life. Next week, I start my new job at the University of Hong Kong, where I'm working as a teacher's assistant while I apply to the PhD program. Please accept my apology for these slow updates while I get into the groove of my new life. Thanks again. Arseth argues in his 2023 paper that story games are novels in the sense of being a kind of interactive fiction, and he means that in the tradition of the early text-based adventure games from the 1980s. Now, however, story games have more visual representation than interactive fictions did, and give the player more control. Some people may not go so far as Arseth in terms of viewing a game like Trails FC as a novel, but I think I can say at least that it's an interactive fiction of extreme narrative depth. Yes, Trails FC gets pretty deep into the realm of anime, which some people may have a negative bias against, but I really believe that this game has excellent character writing above all else, at least. It's a game where the characters often feel like they have real depth.
Even now, I think it would have been better to have wiped them out. Show them no mercy at all. Unlike you and Tio, I just don't feel sorry for those things. And whenever these things happen, I find myself filled with self-loathing. I feel like I'm wrong as a human being. Maybe something in my heart is broken.
Joshua, you idiot! Your strengths, your flaws, I've seen them all! I know you better than you do!
Yeah.
With storylines and character development arcs that continue between games, there's never been a better time than now to get into the series. It's hotly debated among fans which game to recommend to newcomers, since the answer is inevitably going to be the first game, but Trails FC has been inaccessible for a long time for people who don't have a PSP or a Windows PC. Unlike Final Fantasy VII's remake, Trails FC appears to be almost an exact one-to-one remake of the original game in a 3D art style, with all the good and bad that may come with this decision. But I have to say, it's mostly, if not all, good. After playing the demo, the only downside I could think of was that some of the spaces feel a tiny little bit cramped after being rendered as 3D spaces, but aside from that, an enormous amount of effort has gone into creating these locations with obvious love and attention to detail. I think most people will agree that the Trails series has never looked better, though I do have to say that a 3D remake is almost more than I would have asked for. I would have been perfectly happy with an HD remaster of the original, which I feel like has aged very well. And I say that because I don't really want the original FC to be rendered completely obsolete by the remake. I'll always have a soft spot for those little chibi characters, and I'd still like to see the original FC on modern systems one day, but I guess I'm being a little bit greedy here. The great part of seeing this world in a 3D setting is how connected the locations feel. The world of Trails is one in which different nations and kingdoms compete for supremacy following a sort of industrial revolution via orbital technology. This is what turns the lights on in people's houses and makes orbital ships fly. It's also what gives you magic, since your orbiment can be equipped with quartz and grant you abilities. So far, the only big changes I've mentioned are the visuals. The other additions are that Estelle can now break pots and rocks and find little collectible glowing things in hidden areas. Other nice changes include the rewards page, which gives you precious items for finding a certain number of secret collectibles or opening a certain number of chests, that kind of thing. Of course, another big change is the voice acting, which I have to say I'm a little ambivalent about.
That was great! Ugh, I'm so full!
I'm not usually a person who loves voice acting in this kind of game. I'm sort of old-fashioned in this sense. I actually like reading dialogue and imagining the characters' voices, but for a lot of people, the inclusion of voice acting is going to be a huge thumbs up. And if you want to, you can switch back and forth between Japanese and English, or just turn them off entirely. All these changes are unlikely to be controversial for most fans, but one change that I think may ruffle the feathers of die-hard fans out there is the removal of the hidden treasure box messages. In the original FC, after opening a chest, the English translators had included a unique hidden dialogue message, a sort of in-game joke for every single treasure chest in the game. These are completely gone, so do let me know what you think in the comments about that. I kind of miss them. Much else remains the same. The most significant change, aside from the visuals, has gotta be the battle system, and I know that's what a lot of you are here to find out about. In the original Trails FC, before entering battle, you can run up behind enemies on the field map and smack them on the head to gain an advantage. They might also sneak up on you to gain their own advantage. Now, in the remake, you can start fighting them on the field until their stun bar fills up, after which you can decide whether or not you want to initiate command-based combat. To fill up their stun bar, you can use the base attack until this green gauge fills up, then unleash a more powerful attack that stuns the enemies quickly. Afterwards, you can enter command-based battle with an advantage and do a combo or a follow-up attack to whittle down their health even more. Figuring out how to enter command-based combat under the best conditions becomes very satisfying, because if you do it right, you can get your enemies very near death before inputting any commands. This becomes essential on hard mode because your enemies will definitely beat you up if you give them even a slight opening. One of Joshua's moves, Flicker, was an essential move for me in the original Trails FC because it can delay the turn of any enemy it hurts, and during the endgame you can get absolutely walloped by onslaughts of attacks if you aren't delaying them. At first, I wasn't sure why there needed to be two modes, Quick Battle and Command-Based, and I was worried that Quick Battle was going to replace Command-Based Battle. However, after playing the remake, I see that they actually work together very well. They complement each other, because Quick Battle allows you to save your energy for strategizing when it really matters. This keeps the game's combat feeling fresh. If you're the kind of JRPG gamer who likes strategizing, I highly recommend you play on hard mode. But if you just want to chill and enjoy the vibes, go for normal or easy. If you're not familiar with how all of this works, I have another video explaining the original combat system, most of which is still very applicable here. I'd like to know your thoughts, but it seems like Remake is turning out to be slightly easier in general because of things like quick traveling and the rewards feature that gives you items. You also get Sepithmas, which you can exchange for money, and I've already got a lot more spare cash than I can remember having in the original game. Expect a story that takes its time, and get comfortable with savoring the quieter moments. Keep in mind as well that this is only the first of 2 chapters that tell one complete story to be finished in the next game, Trails SC. That means that Trails FC is focused primarily on building the world, the story, and the characters, rather than on a dramatic payoff. Although I have to say, the end of Trails FC is one of the most iconic ones of the whole genre.